But we've got a lot of comment coming into us about learner drivers and whether they should or shouldn't be allowed on motorways. Carl is on the line to us from Woodbridge. Hello, Carl.
Hi, Mark.
You're also a driving instructor.
Yes, that's right.
How would this work, do you think? A good idea?
I think personally it's a good idea, yes. I think some trust needs to be given to instructors that they're actually only going to let their pupils onto motorways when they are confident that they can keep up with the flow of traffic. So for me, I wouldn't be letting any of my pupils onto a motorway unless I was completely happy that they could keep up to 70 mile an hour when it's safe on a dual carriageway first.
And you would want to do that in a dual control vehicle?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's unlikely that you'd need to use the dual controls at those kinds of speeds, and you'd be teaching your pupil good enough anticipation and awareness to hold safe gaps from the vehicles anyway, so that the dual controls are unlikely to come into play, really. But yes, it's something that with professional guidance, I think, will be a very productive thing. Part of the reason is that a lot of criticism, I think, is given to the driver training industry because we seem to be teaching people to pass the test rather than drive for life. And I think this is one of the issues that really comes into play. If we can teach people to drive safely on motorways, then all the better for other road users and the learners themselves. Another issue, I think, is the fact that lots of people do live very close or even within a network of motorways. So the reality is that as soon as they pass their driving test, they can go straight onto the motorway, and that will be the first time they've ever done it. So I think the idea of a probation period probably wouldn't work in practice because some people do literally live next to a motorway. So, how can we keep them off the motorway for 6 months to a year?
If you live in the Midlands, you're going to be on and off it all the while, aren't you?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. So for me, it's a great idea. I think with professional instruction, with fully qualified instructors who are trusted to take the learners onto the motorway only when they're ready, I think it's a great idea.
The thing is, I know we've all been learners, we've all been through that, but sometimes as a motorist it can be incredibly frustrating to be behind a learner driving. I'm as patient can be, but sometimes, particularly where I live, it's learner driver heaven where I live.
Sure.
And I know they've got to go somewhere, but sometimes I think, oh, crikey, come on. And I just wonder whether that same thing would exacerbate some motorists on a motorway even more than it would do on a little side road.
Well, there's certainly potential for that, and I think another thing to consider is that HGVs, most of those are restricted to 56 mile an hour anyway. If I thought a learner was going to drive at less than 60 mile an hour, under instruction, I would not be taking them on the motorway at all. One of the things I tell my pupils when we're on dual carriageways is that I want you to drive at 70 because on your test you will be expected to drive at those speeds to show that you are safe to drive at those speeds. And if they can't get up to those speeds on a dual carriageway, there's no way I'm going to take them onto a motorway.
At the moment, does it worry you when they pass that they could be heading off to a motorway, which is a very different driving experience?
Yeah, it can do, yeah, and I think that, things like the Pass Plus scheme, which I think is going to change in the future, can come into play there where they are taken onto the motorways, but that's not a mandatory thing. It's worth noting that the proposal to let learners onto motorways with instructors isn't a mandatory thing either. It's just a possibility.
Yeah, so if you feel that they're ready for it and there's a motorway nearby, then it could happen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Good to hear from you, Carl. Thank you for getting in touch. Really appreciate that.